As mentioned in a previous video, the amount of surveillance power given to both federal law enforcement and ordinary police officers is astounding. Body cameras, once mistakenly thought to be an accountability measure, are almost exclusively used to benefit prosecution, not defense. Police officers turn them off and on at their discretion with few, if any, consequences. With a warrant, police can place a GPS tracker on our cars. Even without a warrant, police can obtain a lot of our data through what is commonly called third-party doctrine. Traffic lights have cameras, our phones are vulnerable to monitoring, and facial recognition software has created a surveillance panopticon, and it doesn't look like we can ever go back. We have been losing more and more of our privacy over the past 20 years or so, and the state will never willingly give up this power. The police are desperate to track and monitor us, but they are equally desperate to avoid being tracked and monitored themselves. The police are outright hostile to being recorded because that's one camera they can't just turn off when they need to do something questionable. The police do not want us to know where they are, how close they are, or what they are doing until it's too late for us. Some would say that if the police are rapidly increasing their recording and monitoring capabilities, tracking us day and night, we should be able to do the same to them. If the police are spying on us, let's spy on the police. As the saying goes, we pay their salaries. Don't worry, you won't have to do anything illegal or become a computer hacker to accomplish this. Many methods of monitoring police activity are low-tech by today's standards and can be performed by a layman. A police radio scanner is not an ordinary radio. It's optimized to pick up VHF and UHF mobile radio systems that police departments often use. Regular citizens can listen to radio chatter between police officers, dispatchers, and whoever else might be within earshot. It's not particularly expensive to do either. Some mobile radio scanners will cost you about $40 or $50. My more elaborate setup still only cost me about $95. When you obtain a scanner, it's not immediately set to police frequencies. Websites like Radio Reference will have the frequencies for your area, and you will be able to set up your device. Check this website and other reference databases first to make sure you're purchasing a scanner that has the capability to pick up police frequencies. You don't want a scanner that only picks up analog. You might be asking yourself, how is this legal? The Communications Act of 1934 states that the frequencies that police officers use are considered public. A radio station can be privately owned, but radio signals used by police officers are not privately owned, and there is no expectation of privacy for those who use them. There are always limits to this, and the police themselves put up their own roadblocks to protect what they consider confidential or evidence of their own suspicious activities. There have been moves in recent years by some police departments to better encrypt their radio signals, but don't worry, this has not reached all police departments in the United States yet. Also, many unencrypted frequencies will still give you the dispatcher call going out, just not the tactical frequencies. Even with encrypted radio signals, we can still get part of the story, the destination, and other details. Police scanners are used by a number of people and professions, including journalists, lawyers, hobbyists, and activists. If activists are planning a demonstration, march, or something more volatile, being able to listen to police chatter leading up to the event can be helpful. It can also be helpful if there is police chatter during the event that suggests the police are about to move in. Next, you will need to learn police codes. As an example, if you have ever watched a police television show or movie, you will probably know that 10-4 is an acknowledgement. The number 10 before another number is coded language, and it's not only there to abbreviate communication, it's also there to throw people off if they are listening to a scanner. The 10 code was developed in 1937, shortly after the Communications Act of 1934 that determined that police frequencies were public property. Some police departments also use 11 codes, though usage varies. Here are some of the most common 11 codes used throughout the United States. Both 10 and 11 codes are linked in the description of this video. You don't have to pause it here if you want to learn more. It should be noted that while owning and operating a police scanner is legal in all 50 states, there are a few states that have restrictions. In New York, Minnesota, Indiana, Kentucky, and Florida, it's illegal to use a police scanner while driving. On the surface, this might seem like a safety measure, but it is clearly designed to limit mobile use and give police officers a greater head start in these matters. Be careful. If you live in a state in which this is perfectly legal, know the law and know your rights in case the police question you about it. Finally, it should be noted that there are mobile apps that purport to function in the same way as police radio scanners, but these are said to be less effective, hit and miss, full of ads, and they require constant internet access. Proceed with caution. Another way to determine the location of a police officer is a radar and laser detector. Police officers use their radar guns and laser guns to see if they have an excuse to pull someone over and search their car. A radar detector does just what it says. It alerts the user to nearby radar use. A radar detector on its own has a limited range, and many police departments have moved away from radar and are now using laser guns. When purchasing a radar detector, find one that also functions as a laser detector. That way, no matter which method your local police department uses, you will have roughly the same protection either way. Here is my setup. It's listed as a long-range radar/laser detector. You can usually find a competent model for about $50 or $60, and there are more expensive models that cost over $100. Usually the more you pay, the higher the range. A small investment to save yourself a lifetime of tickets and harassment. It's also just helpful to know when the police are near your car to protect yourself because, well, why place that much trust in the police, right? This device is legal everywhere in the United States except for Mississippi and Virginia. The fine for using a radar detector in those two states could be as much as $200. Some local laws also prohibit usage in school zones and construction sites. Everywhere else, you're safe to purchase and use one. If a police officer still manages to pull you over or is searching your car for some other reason and finds the device, make sure you know your rights and the law. They can question you about it, but they can't legally do anything about it. Cite the law and ignore them when they claim that owning a legal device is suspicious. The police are just insecure because they want to be the ones tracking you with impunity, not the other way around. Their harassment is just a manifestation of this insecurity. Don't fall for it. Police body cameras are more likely to be weaponized against us than help us with police accountability. With this in mind, we need to be ready to use our own cameras to film the police, either for our own individual protection or the protection of others in our communities. If a police officer pulls you over, and you have any reason to suspect this might go sideways, immediately turn on your phone camera and face it in the direction of the officer and yourself. I own this inexpensive phone holder, which can always be positioned however I want it. If the officer notices your phone and tells you to turn it off, you do not have to do that. Remind the officer that recording the police is well within your rights and that attempting to forcibly turn off your recording device may itself be a crime. The United States Department of Justice has, time and time again, asserted that we are permitted to film the police. The police have argued that filming them is not protected by the First Amendment, but legal experts say that criticizing them through a recording is protected. So, criticize the officer in the recording. Your assertion of your rights is the criticism. Tell them as much. If the case goes to court, that may prove helpful to you. Know your rights. You can record police officers even in the line of duty, so long as you do not directly interfere with police activity. If you attempt to record the police in a different situation, such as an officer becoming physical with a suspect, the officer is even more likely to impotently demand that you turn off your phone. The police would like to consider any presence at a crime scene as interference with police activity. Don't give them the opportunity. When the police officer says get back, say I'm complying and have the video show you moving back. If the officer tells you to stop filming, you can assert your right to do so. I have said this in a previous video, but to reiterate, lock your phone with a password, not your fingerprint or face recognition. Fingerprint locks might appear safer, but not when it comes to interactions with law enforcement. The police are allowed to demand that you unlock your phone with your fingerprints or face, but they are not permitted to demand that you unlock your phone with your password because your password is private information not available to them, whereas your face is just your face. They didn't have to go digging around without a warrant to find your face. Don't trust the police officers with your phone, especially if you just used it to record their activities. Final word of warning, some people turn on dash cameras in their cars to protect themselves from false allegations or from fraudulent accident claims. However, a dash camera on at all times may create evidence for the police officer. If the police believe your dash camera captured evidence of a crime, they may subpoena the footage, and you will be legally required to hand it over to them or else potentially face another charge. Never believe police officers when they say, "If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to worry about." The best response, provided here by Amnesty International, might be, "If I have done nothing wrong, why is my privacy being violated?" We have a right to defend ourselves. If they can spy on us, we can spy on them.